It ain't, volume's not on.
Oh, is it recording?
It's
Yeah.
recording on our hard drive, but the second meeting wouldn't ever show up on the link.
On
I
the-
always check it when we go into it.
Yeah, the YouTube live part.
So we're trying to figure out why it won't show on the link. The first one did no problem. But we have either way. We have a hard copy of it recorded.
Rodney, I'm actually starting to get a
It's
little
not
nervous
there.
driving on Mountain Road.
And see, it'll come back here, and if you just mute it,
Post-
give me 1 second.
Like your sign is sitting sort of on the edge there. It wouldn't take much of a little buck to send it tumbling. There you go.
Let me make sure this other one.
Call a recess meeting from earlier today back in order. And with that, who would like to start?
I mentioned earlier today that we need to really figure out how we're gonna get this finished with everybody's schedule, so that I can get time to start with.
Okay.
Look at the available days left in the month and who's gonna be available.
What I'd like to know, Rick, if I can kind of go along with you on what you're saying, is I'd like for us to somehow be able to determine how close we are or how distant we are from being able to really home in on finishing this budget. Now, I've got some work to do, I'll admit. I would be hard pressed to make a decision where we are this evening. But I'm not as far away as I was. And, how's your schedule? You said you were gonna be gone
I'm
week
going
after
this
next.
Friday, I'm going the next two Fridays, I think, and then I'm here the first Monday of the last week, and then Monday of the last week.
Right.
But gone the rest of the week, but back on Saturday.
When's the 30th of June?
It's a Sunday.
Or is it Sunday?
Back on the 29th.
I'm here every day. Just give me a day, I'll be here.
I'm here for all of June.
Okay.
And Jamie, your leave is next week, is that correct? 15th. Rick, you said you leave on the 21st and be back on the 28th, is that correct?
I'm back, let me see, I'll show you.
You're out those two Fridays, right? The 14th and the 21st, and then you're gone from the 25th through the 29th. Is that what?
The 25th through the 28th, I'm wrong, that's Tuesday through Friday of the last week. And maybe here the 21st, I'm not this Friday, but I might be the next Friday. 14th, I'm not. I'm here the rest of the day.
About the 24th.
I'm here the 24th, we have a commissioner meeting that night.
25th? You won't be, okay.
He's gone the rest of that week.
On that Tuesday through Friday.
I guess if we had to, could everybody come in earlier on the 24th? If we had to finish up a few things?
Yeah, I'm here all, remember.
Commissioner Owens, could you make that work? I want to set that about,
Are you thinking about like all day?
well, I thought about maybe like 2 o'clock,
We need to get, we've gotta get it done.
yeah.
He's talking about coming in early on the 24th, the day of the regular meeting if they have to. What does that mean? As far as for you, because you'd have to have another, you just can't go in there and rework it and do a budget ordinance. They require another day to come in and get the budget ordinance passed before
Can you
1st of
imagine
July.
what
You guys don't have to have
So-
a year to pass it. Need to have a meeting next week, have a meeting next week. You too, then you can always defer to the 24th.
That's not a good way to do it, though. Better have all.
Still do it that way.
Yeah, the 13th on Thursday at 6 is the.
Ronnie, if there's one more besides us,
You
we
don't
can
want me to
finish that
say, you don't
budget.
want me to say nothing.
We can finish it, get her done.
You rascal, you weren't here last year when we was on vacation.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I
yeah.
missed that.
Yeah, I didn't miss it.
Oh,
I looked right over and saw you weren't in your seat. Check back on the,
You actually coming back on the 22nd.
Traveling on the
Crap is
I mean, I'm not averse to working on the 23rd as far as that goes.
what day is that?
It's a
Sunday,
Sunday.
the 23rd.
Sunday, the 23rd. Sunday, the 23rd.
And it says if we can't finish things up on this Thursday, correct?
what we gotta pull together is what we can, everybody's gonna have things, every single person's gonna have some things on these papers, whether it's equipment, personnel, the COLA, expenditures and revenues, everybody's gonna have something they can delete, some things they are going to absolutely wanna keep on there. We're gonna have to come together and make a determination of what we can take off. Give you a prime example, I think Rick used it as an example earlier in the day. He used the economic development, $500,000 sitting in there. And he said, I think, well, I can't quote him what he said, but he said, you know, we could take some of that money out of the 500,000. Do we have to have 500,000? Everybody on here, I guarantee, can look here. I mean, I made a list this afternoon, some things that I thought we could do without. I think everybody, it might have different things. They'll have different things probably, but we've got to come together. We're really right, we're running the edge of time right now. We're not gonna have, what, 2 or 3 more meetings at most that we're gonna have. So we're gonna get it taken care of. Gotta get it done.
Okay, we have a meeting on Thursday, right?
Yep.
What time did it start?
6.
Got a long one. You can do it.
I can go to midnight that night if I have to.
To let y'all know, I might be a little late, just depending on how long the funeral goes, but, I will be here as soon as we.
Is there any way that we can take a brief look at what is between us and being able to approve the budget? And as Commissioner Mendenhall mentioned, we have certain items that are more important to some commissioners than they are others, respectively, among the 5 people of our board. And we have some that folks are willing to give on, some maybe not. But how close are we to really putting this thing to rest, really having a budget?
Don't sound like we're close at all. I said, don't sound like we're close at all.
I think we're closer than we may realize. If we took what Julia said with a 25.43% fund balance, and then look at what we need to do with that, if we add the items to it that we haven't added yet, what does it bring it up to? And then how do we get it back to 25%?
Julia's asking that you talk to Jamie.
I sent
Yeah, and I've got a synopsis of it, so I
Did you
kinda.
get what I sent?
Yes.
I sent him an email with everything
Oh,
down, just so
okay,
you can have it.
okay, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah, with an overview of everything.
Okay, I didn't
so,
know you did that.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to, I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
that's fine.
Was that whole synopsis we went through a while ago before we got here?
That's just some things sitting here just thinking while they was talking about some stuff.
And I wrote that down, but I can't find the sheet I wrote it down. Would you mind going back over his numbers again? It was cutting the economic development to $250,000.
Cap reserve transfer, sitting at $250,000.
Mhm.
EMS staff.
Six,
for
six,
the
yeah, but
6 unit,
308.
307,634. Adding the time and a half for EMS and communication, 423,350. And then just transferring half of the 1,139,775, that would be $569,888. That would total a credit, 704,172, and we wouldn't have to use but 4,110,361 of fund balance.
And that leaves the fund balance at 25.43. That leaves the fund balance at
Yeah, that leaves the
25.43.
fund balance at 25.43. But now I'm not considered the 100,000
Right, for the SROs.
SRO or anything else that you would want to change. But that was just something I just, sitting up here thinking.
But go ahead and tell them what you could do for
Huh?
that. Go ahead and tell them what you could do for the SRO.
The 100,000.
Yep.
Is that what you mean? He said to plan for doing something with that 100,000.
Okay. Well, I think you'd have to use
I think you'll still be above 25%.
Well, there's 100,000 in professional services in
Oh,
your, economic development.
he's talking about that.
Contract.
My fund balance.
Okay.
Take 75,000 of that and leave the 25. That's more than they had in last year to do advertisements. Take 75 of that and apply it to your school.
What about 50?
Put it in Mike Marshall's budget, and that way he's hiring the officers. You get to school, then where it's gonna go.
What about
Put it
50?
in his part-
There's
his
always that
part-time.
possibility, right? So you transfer 100,000 to Mike Marshall's budget to hire SRO officers.
Right.
But you got 75,000 in professional services in the economic development line item that could help pay for that.
What about 50?
There's 100,000 in that professional services
Right.
line item.
The reason I'm asking is
And last year, we
when
only had 18,000.
Ronnie and I ran, the probably top item on the list was economic development. And when these guys ran, I bet you heard it pretty often as well.
That was my main
So
thing.
I want to give our citizens some assurance that this board is listening to them.
Absolutely, I mean, I'd love to keep it all in, but
$250,000,
keep,
pretty healthy.
keep going, yeah.
Well, I was talking about 50 for the contracted services for advertising, for whatever else.
For the economic development.
Yes.
But right now, what I'm saying is in the pot for economic development, unless I read it wrong, $500,000.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Not,
Well, it has 500, but it can't be spent until we approve it anyway.
Right.
right.
So whether it's there or not.
No, I'm saying right now, it's in there.
And Julia, right now it's 250. Julia,
It's 500
It's still
right
500.
now.
Oh.
It's just, I'm looking,
That scenario would cut it
Yeah.
to 250.
the
Right.
25.43 had 250 in it, I believe.
Mhm.
250 economic development, 308.6, Avalanche unit, you took out 423, time and a half, and 570.
I'm not took it out yet, I just saying,
What the scenario
Look
is.
at it
Right.
as a scenario.
And if you did this, with everything else staying the same, including the 4% COLA, it came out to 25.43.
Yes. Now, if you add the 100,000, subtract 75 from economic development, professional services, you'll go to 25.39.
Yeah, very little difference.
So,
Even,
what are
even,
you saying that we'll have left in economic development?
Still 200.
25,000 in
250.
professional
And
services.
Right.
250,
250,
and then
right?
his professional service, he'd have 25,000.
Right.
even if you went 50,000 in his professional services, it's not gonna make much difference.
Utilize some of the 250 to promote the county.
Yeah, you could just say instead of 250, 200. 200's more than I think you've ever had.
$250's more than 200.
That's what I mean. If we were looking for money for the,
I know,
for what we're.
I'm sorry, I'm just.
I'm sorry, but if we were looking for funding for what we've discussed earlier, there's ways to get at it.
I know, just picking,
That's all right.
just carrying on.
My only question in this scenario, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not far from being able to support a budget. The only thing that I would ask in here is, we're showing that if we did transfer 569,888 to the 4-cent fund, which is half, correct? It's not something that I want us to continuously do, and I know Commissioner Morris has made mention of it, but to me, if half versus a quarter versus the full, I mean, if we can utilize that somewhere else and we need to, I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't know how the rest of you feel. I mean, I think that, in other words,
Just
yeah,
this
one
year.
time, again, it would not be anything that I would support at all going forward for a one time.
And,
And based on the models that they sent out, it's not something that I really like to do by any means, but it's, again, half versus all versus, just,
When you looked at the 29 item list, that we've done, so it was created by Commissioner Morris, and we've done some work on it as part of our budget process. Because there's a lot of things here that we haven't answered.
You go through that, you know, what we really kind of need is a checklist, and we go through the checklist and we're done, if the checklist is,
But at least we're closer to being done.
so,
Yeah.
that's a checklist, plus it probably needs some other things added to it, but
Rick, do you have another copy of that list right there? I don't think I was here when you gave it.
I think Shannon.
I had one laying over there for you at
Did
your
you?
spot. I can get you another one, I
Okay.
can just print it
I
again.
thought you were
The
working on
checklist,
one
I
the
remember I
other
had
day.
I was looking at yours.
Oh, okay. I believe you
No,
were, you're
I-
right.
you want me to give you mine?
Have you written on it? Mine's written
Well,
on
I
it.
just got check marks on it, all I got.
But I can
You know,
print you
highlights
another
is all
copy.
I got.
Hey, ask for a checklist, 3 come running, somebody highlight $100.
I just got check marks on it and highlights and erased off, and I wrote them in pencil.
I think to Jamie's point about what we put in that 4-cent fund, Doug said, I think if we didn't put anything in it like was recommended, then we have to do it all next year. I guess if we put half in it, then we have to do half, at least half next year, right?
Yes.
Or is that right, or is that wrong? I mean, we're kind of pushing the bubble down the
Yeah.
road, and we're gonna hit the wall here in the next couple of years.
I
Well,
would think you would have to
I'm
put the
having
whole
trouble
1.1 in.
connecting the dots.
Do what?
I would think you would have to put the whole
The whole
1.1
thing,
back
yeah,
in
that's,
there.
that's what I'm thinking too. Doug said if we didn't put the money in the 4-cent fund this year, we definitely had to put it in next year.
Or it goes belly up.
Yes,
Or
and
it
so we're
quits,
setting-
it quits functioning as
Yeah,
designed.
it goes into red like that.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting here building these big obligations for next year's budget. And you can't keep doing that without revenue. I mean, I can understand this year we don't spend like much fund balance and all that, and that's, that's an appropriate thing to do, but it's, we just have to be ready to do the next budgets whenever, and address all the things that we didn't do in this one and the next one.
Well, I'm a big opponent. I'm for sales tax. I'm gonna tell you that, cause everybody pitches in on it.
And two, you just get it passed.
It's probably the fairest tax of any. It's a consumer tax. You buy this, you pay the tax, or you do this, you pay the tax.
Which sales tax?
Quarter cent, talking about, should we be able to get the quarter cent passed?
For the 100,000.
For,
SROs.
basically for schools.
For the schools, the SROs.
Right.
Well, I guess I could go on TV and do a commercial and get everybody on board. I mean, I'm willing to throw my face out there one more time.
There's the camera.
Hey, they're all seeing me anyway.
Make sure you start off with, look at me, make sure they're paying attention to you.
Jimmy, you do remember we did that 2 years ago when we ran. We did a commercial.
We did, came out pretty well. Virginia helped create that.
And
TV ad.
Jimmy and I ran 2 years ago. We
Campaign
did a
ad.
TV ad. I think it's all.
So, Andy, what is between you and being able to vote for the budget?
Well,
When we finally just, are we cutting the 6 unit?
We haven't
That's
decided.
what, I know, I'm asking.
Mhm.
according to Brandon earlier today, the true overtime pay was more important. You know, it's a choice
That's right.
22, even though they're both
That's what
important.
he said.
Right, because he said if not, we wouldn't be able to those 6 extra positions, he probably wouldn't be able to fill them anyway, because they have to pay there, so. And it's like I said, of course, nobody wants to cut from this, we need it, next ambulance, but, I kinda see just holding off from that this year and going ahead with the 24/48, is that the true time and a half?
Time and a half. They
Yeah.
already have a
True time and a
24
half.
days.
Right
Okay.
now, they get half time. What it is, they was hired at a salary for 218.25, and every third pay period is 242.50. That's a fluctuating work week. So it said that they're getting paid for time, and that's how we can pay time and a half, because it's a fluctuating work week per the fair labor
Right.
law. And I have to do a special spreadsheet to calculate that. You have to take their salary divided by weeks and then formulate that.
Right.
But by this, we would pay them the true time and a half.
What y'all feeling?
Well, I guess what I was getting at is, I would like to see the 569,888 taken back out.
The one.
The 569,888 going to the 4 cent, taken out. But then the 100K for SROs put back in. And this is just me, I'm just telling you guys some things that I'm a stickler for. I don't know how you guys felt, but one of the questions on here, which is number 19, is determine if the librarian's request to pay increase should be approved. 28%, is that what they said? I don't know if we need to wait, and they had already done a salary study themselves on that one. So
Oh,
my position has been pretty stern that I wanna wait for the salary study. If there's a salary study that's already been for that or any other positions, I would certainly like to entertain that.
I think that's a very valid question.
Yeah.
And we have pretty well acknowledged, Commissioner Yance, that once we do our salary study, we can't implement it all at one time.
Certainly.
It has to be implemented in phases. And so, how would we address, if there is a sizable deficiency in our librarian salary, how can we phase that in, so to speak? I can't see doing it all in one budget.
It's not big enough to have to phase in, I don't think.
What was in our manager's recommended budget for our librarians?
It included their salary study increase.
Included it.
28%?
Well, if that's what it was, but it included what they.
28% was the difference they had in the salary, so that's not what they
They're
requested.
implementing.
What did they request?
You have to look, I don't remember exactly.
Because I don't think they
It's a
requested that
total
much.
of $20-some thousand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
what you-
implemented over 3 years.
Yeah, it's phased in.
So it was a total of $20-some thousand.
Yeah, that's a small one.
Yeah, the other things that we talked about, you know, a couple of other questions that we said we haven't answered on here, I can, speaking for myself, I can answer. The current expense for the school systems, I'd like to make them whole, plus the two, social service positions. That's my take on that. The other ones, you know, I would love to be able to fund them all, but I feel like that's realistic. And then on capital, I feel like the capital is, you know, where we're at, plus the 75,000 to get them to the track at West. And I could live without the additional 75,000 because I think there's a few things on there that's questionable. I mean, I will tell you guys up front that I'm still not publicly, I'm not a big fan of Johnson Controls, so spending another $100-some thousand to upgrade that system is
Good
questionable to
observation.
me.
What's in the budget now, 1.78 million?
$1,780,000.
Yeah, 1.78 million's in the budget now for
I would be
capital.
okay with just leaving that as is. I mean, I think if they can get to the extra 75,000.
And I agree with that.
Which is what we did last year,
Yes,
I believe.
$1,780,000.
Gets them through 19 items on their list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit over 19.
Yeah.
Because 20 was the track, right? Wasn't 20?
Yeah.
Well, one thing, if I may, and I've talked with different commissioners at different times about this, I don't want to get caught in a bind again over something. I'll just use it as an example, like teacher supplement. Now, is the teacher supplement in this funding that we're providing for the school? I think it's in it twice, but is it definitely in there this time? We all agree, and we're on TV and being recorded and everything, so there won't be any coming back around and saying, well, you didn't, or is there anything else that we're likely to be confronted over and say, well, you didn't give us money for this? If we were to go with a 1.78, for example, for capital, and what's the amount for current that you're looking at, Commissioner Yance, if I could ask?
Yes, sir. The current was keeping them whole, plus the
Two social services directors,
which was
Workers.
130.
128.
128.
Was you plan on doing the social workers?
Yeah, I'm willing to go there too.
$128,370.
13,033,003. That would increase the, general fund amount. The $789,250.
What are you saying, Judy? I'm sorry. I've been meeting a long time and I'm beginning to get brain fog. So what are you saying?
Okay, if you're gonna make them whole, which was 12,904,633, add the 128,370 for social workers, that'd be 13,033,003, which would make the general fund amount go to 789,250 being transferred from general fund.
And what does that do for,
Leave our fund balance at
What?
what?
well below 25%?
Then I'm willing to go back and look at taking some of those positions that we've got on first page.
We had budgeted making the system, the school system whole. So the only thing that we'd be adding would be the 120.
Making the school run some holes, 12,904,633, and take, we've got to transfer 660,880 from general
But
fund.
what I'm saying is you're already figuring that 600-some thousand out of
Yeah,
general fund,
but we'd add 128,000 to
which
it.
isn't gonna put it way below 20%.
No, I was confused, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's why, no, I wanted to clarify
apologize.
that, because I was
Because
too when you
I
said.
was figuring the full 600 and some, almost
No,
700.
it's not 700 additional.
Right.
No.
No, that'll have very little impact on our fund balance amount.
And on their capital, through 19 is 1,680,000, so they'd have an additional 100.
Yeah, I think we had figured on it that 75,000 more would do the track, because it was 175,000, if I remember.
So do you want to add,
No, I think that there's some other items in there that,
I'll tell you what I'd like to do is, I'd like to,
Diana said there's an internet cable problem, that's what's wrong with the stream. So,
we're not on TV.
well, we're being recorded, but at the present moment, that's why I texted Diana during the meeting, because it was acting weird. We have a hard drive that records everything, so it can be uploaded the next day. If it doesn't work, there's an internet problem right now, that's not letting things go out. She's working right over there right now,
What time are we gonna start meeting on Thursday?
6 o'clock.
I mean, I'm just.
That could be what's wrong
I
with
was
your.
gonna make changes, and I was gonna save it, and wouldn't let me save it, so I'm like.
She said it looks like one line, but I don't know if maybe you're in that.
I know what I can save it as soon as I do it here,
A whole different number than Jamie does.
save it to my desktop,
We're all gonna give our numbers, know what we're doing on school.
save it to my desktop, and then it's there.
Do what?
Save it to my desktop, and it's there. The internet's not working.
The number she gave earlier did not include the social workers, the two social workers, it's,
It's like it says save.
the
as a
original
copy.
did not,
Yeah.
but it would just be the additional 100, it would be additional. The additional one. Reset. Okay. But again, what I was saying is not to fund half of the amount, % to offset some of that. I mean, I would be willing to entertain that. Or said,
Stuck it someplace.
I'm pushing the balloon down, the eventually it's gonna be addressed.
Y'all have, everybody else have a number, you want my number, or what?
Excuse me.
go ahead, if we're doing that, that's fine.
I would do the school 188,370 more instead of 128, and that adds a 60 more in there for them to either do the school supplies, which I understand is designed to keep teachers from having to buy a bunch of stuff out of their pockets. But as far as I'm concerned with the 60, they can do any of those other priorities they want to, or do the school supplies or whatever. And then, of course, I support the two social workers. And then, one unanswered question is, we still haven't decided, I don't think, what we're going to do with them for a fund balance. And they're in here not talking about doing these various things that they've done out of the fund balance. If we're gonna set a 250 for their fund balance, then we have to give them some amount in addition to what they already have left over to have a 250 fund balance, right?
I don't know what they'll have at the end of this year.
Well, I mean, everybody works on estimates. Lynette can do estimates, right? Just like you do.
I don't have it, I don't have an estimate from her, what she thinks.
Or we could ask her. I mean, if we're going, or unless you don't want to give them a fund balance, make them live with what they've got right now. I think they need enough fund balance, whatever that number is, and I don't know, like I said the other night, what it should be. Whatever it is, if they need an emergency fund balance, so they don't have to come down here every time something happens. That's good for it. In my opinion.
And that line item number one, the 100,000 for emergencies, would that be part of that? Or is that something separate?
The, what line item?
Right there is for the priority.
Well, on the capital, I'm good with what Jamie said.
Okay.
Just going down through item 19. I'm fine with that on capital. Yeah, actually, it would, oh, I see your question. Yeah, it probably should be part of it.
Yeah. Cause it's sit there just in case of
Mhm.
emergencies, and we're talking about giving them a,
Yeah, and so if you give them that, you may have already given them enough to be 250.
right.
But I don't know without that giving us
Capital
an
is
estimate.
separate from the current expense.
But you can move it around. They can move it.
I don't know about capital, that's sales tax dollars.
Well, they have capital emergencies and they have current expense emergencies, right? So-
They can use current expense for capital, but I don't think they can use capital for current expense.
Okay, well, I'm good with giving
I mean, I
100.
can ask on that, but I think they can use current for capital, but I don't think, because it's sales tax dollars and that's supposed to go directly to capital. I mean, that's just a question I'd have to ask her.
Whatever, yeah, but they're both fund balances,
Yeah.
like Andy's point, so they somehow need to be added together to come up with what a total fund balance is.
So let me see if I'm got this down correctly. It's supposed to give them $1,780,000 for capital.
That's correct.
That's correct. Now, current expense, what's the consensus on the board on that?
Well, I'm gonna hold off to Thursday. Maybe I'll call you tomorrow. I wanna get, I really wanna get a look at that. We're giving them the same amount we gave them last year on capital. And I remember Commissioner Yachts telling me that he was tickled to death to get that much on capital last year. I think it was 1,780. We've never, that's been the highest amount we've ever given them. Highest amount. Way higher than 1,780.
Say that I could support on the current expense, Commissioner Morris's stance on that. You know, and let them decide what the other ones, I mean, the athletic trainers was something that I'd circled. School, I mean, school custodian is as important as any position in the school, so they can decide on that. But the reason that I say that is, again, I keep going back to this 569,888. Take out 100K for the SROs, and then the 188,370. Mr. Morris proposed leaves a balance 281,518. That still have out there to look at those other items that I brought up. You know, small items, but A is one thing that kind of sits in the back of my mind.
I agree, I want to support the library.
That's an easy one. But do we want to go, I know the amount's small, that increase, but we're not doing that for our other employees? Are we cherry picking that one and doing it for them when we're not even doing it for our employees?
We're giving our employees a 4% COLA.
Right, but this is
Then we can't
substantially
do
more
what they
than,
did because we don't have our salary study.
Right.
done yet.
right, this is, their request is substantially more than 4% for their salaries in it.
But they didn't receive a 4% last year. What did they receive? 2 point, the COLA, the libraries, remember?
And
It wasn't the full.
most
I
companies,
know it was like 2.5 or something, so that was,
I think anything over about 2.5% would be pretty rare for a COLA. I even question using the term COLA for 4%, because it's just like a pay adjustment.
Call it what you want to, but I think, what I'm trying to do there is head off the pain from this salary study that we're gonna get into next year. Get a jump on that.
I'm not sure how I can connect that, because
We got a very
we're sort of,
painful salary study.
We don't know whose salaries need to be adjusted,
We're
who's
pretty sure
don't,
that every one of them's
but
going
you're
up.
adjusting everybody. Nah.
Yeah, they are, I guarantee
I've
you.
never seen a salary study where that happened.
Well,
Maybe
you haven't done
have,
one in
but
20 years, and you don't think they're going up?
well, everybody's salary's been going up.
They have, but not.
They've gone up probably 7 or 8% in the past, what,
Not at the rate,
3 or 4 years?
not at the rate to remain competitive, though.
I don't know, that's why we're doing the study.
I have
And you're just giving an across the board 4% raise and saying you're doing it to offset the effect of the salary study.
Well, I mean, you know, it would be great if we gave them 4% and the salary study came in and said, oh, you're good.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna have to take any back, I can guarantee you.
To me, I need further information, but that's to each his own kind of thing. Did you finish, Commissioner Jones? We're going around, are you next, or Commissioner
I'm still
Lennon,
looking.
all want to wait, I believe.
I got a couple of things we can throw out here, just, on my list, I worked on it, a little bit of a thing I worked on, before you got here, I was talking about. Are we deciding, and this is a mixture of items, but have we decided we're gonna do the EMS station wallet code? Is that a yes for
We haven't
everybody?
decided.
Well, that's why I'm asking,
Yeah.
what's your position on it?
I
Yes or no?
agree.
I'd like to go ahead and get it started, yeah.
I would too.
I think that's a definite go. And I'm just gonna be honest with you, I think it gives us buy-in next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
It's gonna be financed.
right.
and then so what we talked about today is basically working on the personnel end of those guys with their time and a half pay, plus getting the station going so we can do the ambulance next year. Correct. Okay, so, one little quirk that, we're gonna make another area where we're making more salary available for a portion of the county this year, but not the rest. I guess that'll be okay, because you're targeting a problem where you have turnover. But time and a half all of a
Oh,
sudden.
for EMS and, no.
For certain departments and not others.
What about the sheriff's department?
No, they're not part of it. It's only
They're
three,
giving comp time,
Okay,
there's only 3 departments it affects, right? Time and a half pay.
communications and EMS.
And it's just 2 departments.
well,
Okay.
Julia, you raise an interesting question, and so do we need to go the full time and a half, or could we go some and comp time some?
But then you gotta give them time off.
Yeah, which really is another complication,
And if they leave, you gotta pay them off comp time.
right?
He sit there and said they wanted true overtime.
Mhm.
He said he can fill those positions and keep them filled with that.
Well, and that it's in other budgets like Surrey County, and if it gets
Correct.
approved there, then he'll have more trouble keeping people on staff.
I'm good with that.
I'm
If you,
sticking
guys.
with them on that. I'm gonna stick with him on that, I mean, his exact words was, "You want us to be competitive, basically, we need true."
Well, if you also, I'm sorry, but if you remember Commissioner Mendenhall, I asked him what other counties were not given full, true overtime. There was one besides us. It was Surrey
Surrey.
County, and he had information that indicates that they're going to full overtime in their current budget.
Correct.
So we would be the only county in the area that is not given full overtime.
Correct.
And that would put our EMS director in a very precarious position as far as his ability to staff his operation. So I'm tentatively on board with that. Commissioner Morris, in response to your observation, if you recall, we isolated 3 or 4 departments to address
Yeah,
significant.
that's what you should be doing.
Yeah, we did that with EMS, Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, I
emergency-
know all that. We don't
Right,
have to go
so
through
this
that.
would not be the first time we
No,
have
it wouldn't. That's true.
did
True,
something like
it's,
this.
it's normal business, you target your problem areas, you don't
Mhm.
try to fix up problems you don't have, I guess. Okay, the next thing I've got is the solid waste transfer station. I would like to do Walnut Cove and put Pinnacle off till next year.
I agree with
That
that.
would make 770 turn into half of 770.
I agree
Now,
with
is
that,
that-
because I think there's too many unanswered.
You said, what did you say?
I said, I'd like to do the Walnut Cove transfer station and put off Pinnacle,
Okay,
and that would cut this bill of 770,000. You'd take half of that to do Walnut Cove, right?
Can I ask a question about that? He had a truck in here, in that total. Should we take the truck out, put it in capital and finance it?
yes, I would say yes.
I mean, I'm just,
Um,
I thought about that the other day and I meant to mention it, and I forgot, I didn't write it down, I forgot it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
definitely,
I
you definitely
apologize.
want to finance it.
Now, Commissioner Morris, when you say transfer station, it kind of threw me for an
Oh.
instant, because I was thinking the transfer, or the green box, yes, but there was something about scales and,
That's a different.
That's a
that's-
different-
yeah.
Another building.
Mhm.
Yeah, 385.
That's when they had the
That's
cup on the
one
stick.
at the landfill
Yep.
with the cup on the
Yeah.
stick.
And then the next item's the fuel depot, and I think everybody's ready to put that off another year,
I
right?
definitely want to put
So you
that
want me to
on,
take that one off?
Take that one off.
the fuel depot.
Can I ask one question in regards to the fuel depot? When we discussed it the other night, I don't know if everyone recalls or not, but we talked specifically about Walnut Cove and that location. And if we do the green box there, it's gonna do away with the fueling station that they're currently using. So we had talked about the possibility of doing the two together. Is that gonna be an issue for them? I mean, in the short term, probably not, but I just wanna make sure that it's not.
Right now, she's doing calls.
We've gotten fleet cards, and we're giving them to EMS, well, we're testing one to see how it works, start off with. And then we're giving, until we can get the diesel issue is down there.
Okay.
So really, we're going to give some to other departments too, eventually. So we could, that could solve it until we got the fuel depot. Because we'll leave the fleet cards to the departments, because if they go out of town, you know, out of county or something, sheriff's department I'm thinking of, goes out of county, has to transport somebody, and they have to stop and get fuel, you know.
Okay, yeah.
That's
Then
just
I'm okay with
a
that.
temporary fix
I just
for
know that's something
EMS.
we had talked about.
There's issues with tanks being out of frame,
Yeah.
and the rapid up and down temperature fluctuation between day and night
Moisture.
is creating problems with diesel fuel, and our trucks were not running right.
And then the next one is a storage maintenance building up here on the hill. That's 500,000. And, you know, I guess the option there is to either do it or put it off a year.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The storage maintenance building up on the hill up here, give our guys a place to work, plus to do some storage things, plus to give our guys a bathroom up there, which they don't currently have. I mean, I could, between that and the solid waste and the scale house, that's another 125K. They've worked a long time without them. I suppose they could survive another year without them, but then are they gonna get out prioritized next year?
Right.
So, I don't have a firm position on either one of those yet.
How many years have been overlooked?
I think,
Decades.
I think we need to, on those, you wanna lean toward doing it because of the situation, but we'll make that word tentative again, on those two, because I just don't know where we're gonna be at. Hey, guys, I've been through 3 of these things, you start saying yes on everything, before you know it, you're gonna be in a mess. That's what you're gonna be in, then you're gonna have to go back, and like that.
You can
Not
always
that I
just-
don't mind doing them, I'm sure they need them,
That-
no doubt in my mind, but, Julia,
We could pick one and do the other one next year too.
That 500,000
we're gonna
includes
need some numbers.
other, it
Storage.
includes storage and shelter type enclosure for equipment. If you wanted to just cut it back to where you've done a maintenance building, you could probably cut that cost in half.
Don't only halfway do it just to rush it either, and not meet the requirements.
Yeah.
Mark asked for 65,000 just for a building
Yeah,
for them.
yeah, I say.
He's taking it out of the sewer fund and
But
they very water.
you know, when I'm looking at those projects, though, I'm looking at what is going to benefit the most, or the biggest majority of county employees, departments, however you wanna classify it. And that storage building to me is needed by not just one department, but many departments.
Pretty much all.
So if I'm gonna prioritize, that's gonna go to the top of my list on things that we're talking about. I mean, that versus, yeah, the scale house, I don't think is must at some point, but,
Been at it.
oh, yeah. Oh, I feel like, I mean, again, for the,
We can come back to them, but those are both pretty important to do,
I think so.
so.
I think they're important too.
Yeah, I
Don't
know,
get me
I
wrong.
understand.
You understand what I'm
So
saying.
leave them right now.
Just leave them for now till Thursday
I
at least.
just- I
Well,
just
they're in
think
capital projects, so I mean,
Yeah.
y'all can
They-
decide
they
not to
are
put them
capital.
off another year,
Yeah,
because
they're
they're in
capital.
capital projects. They're not in general fund.
I'm just wondering where we're gonna be at on the general fund when we show up on Thursday.
These figures aren't in general.
I know,
Okay.
these are capital.
Okay.
I understand that.
Then the last thing is we have to decide if we're gonna, I really wanna do something with get the water project started in Meadows, so we have public water. Support businesses over there and don't drill any additional wells over there we don't need. It would mess up the whole topography over there, so. And that, we don't have a number assigned to that, but that involves the process of going after grants, and we have to have some help for this, our staff to be able to go after grants, I think. With an engineering firm or management firm or something, so maybe that's just an RFP or something.
We have a meeting tomorrow that Mark set up with, the USDA and some other folks coming about looking into that process to start.
Okay, maybe update us Thursday on it
Yep.
then. And then the other things that are kind of similar to those are the things that are in public buildings. HVAC controls for the Reagan building, the boiler replacement, is the boiler about to go out?
They've warned that it's, yeah, Mark says so, and the company's told him. There's been some issues, several issues with it the past several months.
I believe another one there would be the roof of the jail.
Roof of the jail and demolition of the prison camp property. And we could put off the prison camp property until we have some specific use that comes up for it or something.
I agree with that, because tearing it down and hauling it off wouldn't take very long. I mean, any wrecking company could come here in 3 weeks and have it probably gone.
You may end up with some project that would do it for you
Yeah.
too, possibly. And that's one I could at least put off, I think, since it's been there as long as it has.
He's selling brick in that old prison camp down there. Don't need to haul it off.
Sell them.
Sell 'em.
Sell those brick.
And you can put this on eBay for us, can't you?
Go deals.
Yeah, there you go, gov deals.
Anyway, I guess we don't have to decide tonight, but just think about those, which ones we definitely want to do.
That's coming out of capital reserves, so that'd be revenue.
In the new positions and reclassifications, we did a pretty good job of going through that the other night, and I think came up with pretty close to the right solution. I'd like to look at those classifications where you have the same people doing the same classification, but not being classified the same. And I think Stacy, I haven't read it yet, but she gave us some information on some of those in her place, right?
She did, and that, what I passed out yesterday,
Yeah,
had those in
I
there.
haven't studied that, yeah, I glanced at it, but I haven't studied through it, so I'm gonna do that before Thursday. And look at any department heads, if we might need to make any adjustments to them, they're out of whack, I can tell over time, but I don't know what y'all this year versus wait for the salary study. That's all I have for the moment.
Well,
We
you
agreed
agree
on some stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Ready to pass it now?
No. Somebody can make a motion, there can be a second, and there can be a vote, and if it passes, it's passed, but I'm not there yet.
We got notes on here that y'all agreeing on a few things.
Yeah,
There's starting to be some agreement on
Still got a
certain
lot,
things.
a lot of work to do. You
Um,
got some things that you've agreed on.
Well, I can give you some, I can't give you all of mine yet, because I'm still working on it. As far as the schools, there's things like, I'm not ready to just pick a number and say $60,000 for more, supplies. I don't know what's in their current budget. This is the 18-19 budget request from the schools. And I just took a quick look. There was 11,000 in that amount for last year for school supplies and whatever. Also, I go back to a time when, I saw a certain portion of the, school's budget, a line item actually for school supplies. And there was $350-some thousand in that particular year's budget. This has been some years ago. There's $350,000 taken out of school supplies and used for other purposes, which really weren't identified beyond salaries. I think some salary adjustments were in there and that type thing. So that was quite a chunk that came out of that year's budget that was supposed to be used for supplies that went to other expenditures. Now, is that still going on? I don't know. We don't have access, generally speaking, to the school's budget, so I don't know. Do you know if it's any, and before I can agree to $60,000 additional, I don't know what's in their current budget for.
It's in that orange folder.
The reason I said 60, that it could be used for school supplies, but as far as I'm
I know
concerned,
they
can
had
use it for
60
those
in
other
here,
items.
Julia, but I don't know what's in their budget now.
The first sheet before that
Okay,
color
help.
sheet,
Help me here.
this sheet right here.
Okay,
Also,
You're looking at
in the
this
back
one?
of your book, you have the whole detail on their budget. The back of your book, there's a current expense tab. That's their budget.
so I haven't even got there yet.
Okay.
I haven't looked at that. I've been trying to work my way through the budget, and I
They just
haven't.
did this summary, this is
Yeah.
the summary sheet.
So I need to know what I'm doing if I add $60,000 for supplies to what they currently have. Because it sticks in my mind that there was a year when there was $325,000 taken out of supplies and used for other purposes.
Well, and my rationale is, I don't care if they use it for supplies, that's where I got the number. But if they wanna use it for any of those other things, that'd be fine with me, it's their job to prioritize that.
Yeah, but
That's the way the rules are set up, but I would be, even though I couldn't do anything about it, I would be more concerned if they didn't do the social work.
I'm with you on the social workers.
I don't care about
I'm
the other
gonna be there when it's over on the social workers. But something like, give us 60,000 more for supplies, well, what are we adding that to?
Or the other items, whichever they choose to.
But that's not how people generally do business. They don't say, I'm gonna pay you for this and not know what it is. But I see where you're coming from, because really,
I'd be happy if they did it for supplies, if it kept the teachers from having to pay for supplies out of
Right.
their own pockets.
exactly,
But if they don't,
I
then
completely
I'm not
agree
gonna be
with you.
upset about it.
And all these schools that run out of money this time of the year, how'd that happen? Why was there not enough money to keep these schools going through the year? Who's figuring that? There's a lot of questions, and I'll be honest with you, this part of the budget, I rely on people like Commissioner Mendenhall, Commissioner Yachts, people that have been involved, should know more about what's going on to kind of help guide me through it. So I'm not ready beyond the 2 social workers, beyond adding SROs to commit to the school budget. The 1.78, do you remember how that number came into existence, Commissioner Yachts? I mean, Mendenhall, I'm sorry, he's that way, you're that way.
I mean, what happened was, is it was what was used last year. If you remember, capital comes out of sales tax articles 40 and 42
Mhm.
Article 40 and 42. One was 880-some thousand, one was 890-some thousand. It came out to $1,780,000, and that is what we have to give them. We are required to give them that. We don't have to give them another penny. Gotta go there.
Do you remember last year that there was a list of, I think it was 25 items? And we were able to fund that entire list with our,
We gave them $1,780,000 last year. This year, they have 2 roofs on their thing, London and South Stokes. That's almost $1 million, just those 2 roofs.
right,
That takes a lot of it.
it does.
Then I'm like Jamie, I will say it this way. There were a few things that caught my eye that I wasn't so sure needed to be on there. So that's why I'm willing to stay at $1,780,000 and not go up. Commissioner Youngs, wasn't that your rationale?
Certainly.
Thank you.
So those are the 2 people, as I sit here and look at this budget and the school portion of it. You're the 2 people on our board that I have the most respect for, as far as knowing the actual interworkings of the school budget. So if both of you are sitting here and saying that that is an adequate and appropriate amount, and it's fair compared to all that else we have to compare our budget to, prioritize, whatever, I put a lot of credence in what you guys are saying. And so if there's 2 of you that should know a lot more about the school budget than I know, and you're saying that number is okay, then I'm willing to say, well, it sounds okay to me because y'all say it's okay.
Capital outlay is definitely okay.
Right. Now,
I
Kurt,
don't, Jamie's looked, Commissioner Johnson's looked at current expense more than I have.
right,
That's why I asked a while ago, I'd like to look at it again tonight and tomorrow before I say.
and I'm gonna be very interested, I'll be honest with you, Commissioner Mendenhall, I'm gonna be very interested in where you end up with your analysis of the current expense. There's little things too, hardly worth mentioning, but in the scheme of things, they are important to some people. Now, we've been promising, I think, or at least alluding to a feasibility study for the wellness center. Is this in this budget or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so take that one off the list. There's other things like you mentioned, Commissioner Morris, the ambulance facility, EMS facility at Walnut Cove. We need to wrap things like that up, get a definite yes or definite no, and move on. Mark, take them off the list. So have we all agreed? I don't remember chiming in on it, but.
You shook your head.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
It was a reflex action.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm on board with that also. I just want to be sure that we can take that one off the list. What about the overtime?
We're on board for that.
So that's off the list.
Yeah.
It's-
I
it's
need,
done.
you're the only person that I don't have positions on that, so if you can kind of give me an idea, I'm just trying to kind of keep some notes as we go to.
I feel overlooked.
No, we kind of spoke on them, but you didn't ever give a yes or no, everybody else kind of gave a.
No, I will give my concurrence to the overtime.
What about the EMS station in Walnut Cove?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And what about the true time and a half?
Yes.
Yes. And when the question that was posed for the solid waste transfer station just in Walnut Cove, which cut out like $385,000, not doing the Pinnacle one.
I'll give my final answer on that if I may Thursday.
Okay.
I'm still thinking, I'm leaning toward very strongly toward a yes, but I want to think about that just to be sure. And what I need to do is I need to be looking at the overall budget, the Julia numbers, and see what these changes, what effect all these changes we're talking about is having, as far as our fund balance, for example, and what kind of budget are we creating as we deal with these things.
so far with these right here is done, it's still the same, everything is, she's
Got
got
the
it
wash?
She's got it in there,
Yeah.
what you said yes to here so far, she's got it in that budget.
Now, Third Rock sent me if you want to, but I'm still mixed on a 4%, what you call a COLA.
Right,
You recommended 2%.
I did recommend 2%.
Can you tell us why you recommended 2%?
I just felt like it would be just a good morale boost. It would help start the process of the salary study, and it would help the morale of other ones that were not in the, new positions of the reclasses.
Everybody knows that we're getting ready to hit a reval coming up here.
Right, right, right.
You felt like 2% was enough. I remember Commissioner Yance calling 4%.
Yeah.
4% was sort of what was put on the paper, but it can be changed, but you were saying you're saying, you know.
I favor sticking to our manager's recommendation.
Well, I think some of what was discussed when you talked about it was taking out all that reclass stuff
Yeah,
and
the
going with
reclasses,
the
I mean, that
4%
was-
instead of that, and that way it kind of gets everybody across the board.
And the reason I'm sort of, holding off on going full bore 4% or more is I think that's kind of in a way preempted what we're trying to accomplish with our salary study. Because we don't know who is being compensated more adequately than the next person. And until we get that information, if we're gonna pay any attention to it, I can't buy what Commissioner Morris says, for example. He says every county employee is underpaid. I don't know that.
I do.
I don't. I don't know how you do. I don't know what yours.
Years and watching them leave.
I've been here 14 years, so I was here when you left to go to Washington and come back and stayed.
But they've been leaving constantly with a 16%, 20% turnover for the last 7 years.
A lot of that's
I
in
can
about
tell you, I
3
can-
or 4 different areas. There's a lot of stability in some of the other areas.
Yeah, but that, you're gonna find it. We'll make a side bet on it if you'd like.
1,000?
Yeah, 1,000.
I want to speak to one thing though on it real quick, and you've alluded to this a lot, and you've alluded to when the three of us were campaigning. I'm gonna say, there's one thing that you haven't said, and when the three of us were campaigning, we said that we wanted to get our county employees where they deserve. We've said that 1,000 times over and over, and I think for me, that was a small step, and it's not choosing who the winners and the losers are this year by doing reclassifications. I think that the salary study does that and sorts that out. That's the whole reason that I recommended 4%. And call it a COLA, call it a cost adjustment. I don't care what you call it, but to me, it's something that's been out of balance for a while. You guys last year made the steps in doing it. That's right, you did. And you went in the right direction last year. I think it just, there's a little more that needs to get us there. And I don't think we'll be there then either. Real quick, Jim.
No, I just was asking for, cause I'm just trying to keep a sort of tentative list as we're going. And I know with you're still talking about the same thing, but with the 4%, I was just trying to get an idea on who's for 4, who's for 2. I kind of felt like I knew, but I wanted to make sure, and I wasn't positive about your
You want positive
position.
about mine?
Right this minute, I felt like 2, but I
You
wanted
didn't
to
know
be
if I
sure.
said dos or quattro?
I felt like you were at 2, but I wanted to be positive, and I felt like he was at 2, but I wanted to be
I'm
positive.
not, I
Maybe.
haven't said yet.
Okay,
Right,
okay.
I said neither dos or quattro.
Okay.
2 or 4.
But I'm leaning toward quattro, which is 4, but I'm not committing to quattro.
I'm just been keeping a tentative list as we go.
It can be dos or
just to kind of
quattro.
get an
I
idea.
have not campaigned on the same campaign platform you guys have. I basically listen to the citizen without feeding them information, say, here's what I'm gonna do if you elect me. I took the approach of tell me what's important to you guys. Well, salaries did not come out that high. And you guys weren't here all those years. Julia remembers very well, and Jake and others, you do too, when we struggled to give any COLA. And we gave bonuses instead of COLA for years. Now, last year, the county manager's recommendation was the same, 2%, right, Jake? Commissioner Booth, just out of the blue, brought in 4%.
And it passed 5-0. Didn't it, or did you vote against that?
I think I stuck with the manager's recommendation,
So it was 4-1.
right?
That's a grade increase, which was 4%.
Yeah,
Yes, Commissioner Booth said, I'd like to go to 4%. And we took the vote. And I think, yeah, I know Rhonda voted for it. 4 of us that went forward. I think you stuck with the manager.
I'm not sure whether Commissioner Langford did or not, I can't remember.
He did.
He did?
He did, I know. he
Okay.
did.
I've got mixed feelings on this. I'm not saying I might not come around and support the 4, I might, but I have at the very best mixed feelings, and I've shared some of the
Okay.
reasons.
Put me down for Quattro. I'm tired of doing one.
Okay.
4%.
Which is fine, you know,
Can I say 4 or should I call it Quattro?
but
Either one is 4.
I'm just,
actually, I had the floor, so that doesn't
I'm
count.
sorry, he did, but after he gets done,
Okay.
I'll have the floor. and
okay,
I'll
so
go
next.
I'm picking at you, Commissioner Mendel.
You can tell it's
Sorry
getting
about that.
late, and I'm getting there.
Gosh, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Man, let me just finish with this. Hour's late. I know I'm getting more and more brain fog progressively. No comments, please. But I just have more work to do. And I'll be in better shape to deal with some of these things, I promise you, when we meet on Thursday.
I think we're to a point where we really need to
Pretty close.
go, we're not far apart now. I mean, we've come a long way. We still got some work to do, but we've come a long way. So I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I sure would like to have somebody make a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask one
wait.
question first? Real quick. What about the Arts Council? We gonna leave that 50/50 or 100% county?
I'm 100.
Yes, in here it says 100, isn't it?
No, it's
50/50.
So 100.
We had a quite
I just
good
seen it on my
presentation on
thing.
that.
Yes, it is.
So I know
Yeah.
what to do here.
Okay.
A good presentation as one.
And,
It's
bringing in, yeah,
Okay, well, I'm okay with making it 100.
it's sitting besides the park, it's the second most common thing about, so.
Well, I'll make this comment, and I'll even make the motion to adjourn.
Well,
If we
not
don't-
make a motion
can't
to adjourn
adjourn, we
just
gotta-
yet, 'cause
I
we're-
said I will make it
Okay.
when it comes time. If we don't if I don't try to look after the citizens' interest and be responsible for protecting their interest, knowing how hard a lot of these people have to work for the money they pay these taxes with, I don't know who is. It's fun to spend money for this and spend money for that, and I'm not talking about just the arts position. I'm talking about a budget to me that looks fat. It's a bigger budget than I thought I'd be sitting here trying to decide what to approve and what not to approve. So I'll just end it with that, and
Can I
that,
have the floor before you adjourn?
you asked for somebody to adjourn.
Yeah, but now I'm gonna say something.
Okay.
We did campaign this time. We campaigned, and when we campaigned, I can tell you the number one thing was economic development. By all.
And don't raise my
Everywhere
taxes.
I went, I got hit with economic
Yep.
development. You took it.
And the opioid crisis,
Yes.
and don't raise my taxes.
So the key is I would never, I think I was the first one to come out that said, I will not vote for a tax increase or anything below 25%. I'm sticking with that. And if this all comes and blows up, I'm sticking with what I said. I can still vote yes on 4% COLA and see how it comes out. That's all I gotta say.
And I promised him I'd make a motion that we adjourn, so.
No, recess. We gotta
Recess,
this meeting,
recess,
yeah.
thank
Can I
you.
ask one very quick question that I think we need to think about? One of the other big items that I think that we need to kind of, between now and Thursday, is transferring that half to the 4 cent.
What?
Half of the money we were gonna transfer to the 4 cent, the $5.99.
Half of the 1,139,775, which is,
If we wanna transfer that half, or if a one-time not transfer that.
I'm already on board for transfer, half of it, the half.
The 569,888, yeah.
I think it's something that we need to consider. I mean,
I need to know when I'm doing the figures, what to do with that.
Well, I guess you could say tweak it a little, and it doesn't have to be 50%, it could be
Yeah.
40% or 60%. We do need to think about that.
Well, I'll change my motion to recess.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we can have for Thursday
Yeah.
that would help to expedite any kind of thing, like, would you like a checklist, would you like, I mean, what, just kind of consensus from how we could help you to, or anything that anybody wants to request that we have, besides just some, updated numbers with things we talked about, just.
I think it'd be good to review my checklist, and then you guys add everything you see that's missing from it. And, that might help us organize way of making sure we don't overlook something.
Yeah,
She's got a good one here so far.
I've got a pretty good list going, but I just wanna, if we can just kind of go through it, kind of straightforward and help to.
Have you already got something like that in place? Could you, what I'm asking, is there a way you can email it to us
Well,
tomorrow
it's,
to look
it's
at?
pretty shorthand, but I can get
I mean, if not,
it
don't worry about it, we'll wait Thursday.
No, I can get it together for you, but I can send you like kind of that list and add what I've got to it, of just kind of what I've been taking numbers on and stuff.
Well, I've been
And Joey's been doing the same thing, we get together the next day and go through it.
Do you have enough to where you can give us, I know we're not totally finished, but you have enough where you can sort of give us where we'll be on our fund balance?
I think we can, I didn't write down, checking beside of stuff as we went.
Okay. That's all I got. I'm ready to go home now.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure I'm not missing anything that he needs us to do.
The one piece of information that I'd like, Julia, is what were if our tax administrator is correct, and we have a double-digit increase when we have a revale, what will that do as far as revenues?
1.8 million,
1.8 million?
and then you do your collection rate of 97.5%.
Because the reason I ask is I said I didn't want to go over half that amount reoccurring out of our fund balance. And I think, Mr. Manager, I think you said at one time you calculated about 800,000 currently, as far as reoccurring coming out of our fund balance. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I'd like to know what these changes that we've been discussing this evening, what effect that will have on the amount of reoccurring coming out of our fund balance, because I'm willing to go half of what we expect to get from the revale as far as reoccurring out of fund balance.
What's your assumption on the tax rate when you know that reval number?
What, sir?
I said, what's your assumption on the tax rate you're gonna approve on when you get that reval number that he just gave you?
Well,
Because you have to calculate revenue neutral and report it.
well, we have to calculate it, but we don't have to do anything about it.
Exactly.
And also,
There'll be people asking about it.
I've heard about, oh yeah, a few select ones that ask about it every year. But, I've also heard it said among the commissioners, and I'd like to have affirmation or validation of this before we leave. No tax increase,
I'm sticking with it.
no tax increase.
No tax increase, eh?
Oh, yeah, I've said that this year, I'm
Right.
ready to even.
So
Just
this,
like our position and 25% fund balance.
right. So we're all together on that. So the tax rate will remain the same. Pardon? I hope there's not 7 different places of them tonight.
Meeting's recessed to Thursday,
We
June
didn't vote on it, but it's gonna
6
pass.
o'clock,
6.
6.
6 o'clock, yeah, 6 o'clock.
We didn't vote.
We got a vote on the recess?
No.
No, normally this type recess, yes. You do if it's recessing from one
We're
meeting.
just
to
recessing
another.
to Thursday.
But if it's just a short recess, like we have during the meetings, we don't vote on those.
Okay, we can go vote real quick.
Okay? Yes?
Yeah?
We're voting on recess?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's we got
you
to.
don't.
That's what I was,
Okay.
that's what I was told by the
Let's
school.
read-
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting recess, Thursday, June 13th.
No,